Everybody. Welcome back from lunch. We got real quiet. I appreciate that, actually. I didn't have to yell at you to be quiet. So I'm so excited to be here with Stellantis' new CMO, Raj Register. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me,
Yeah.
especially after lunch. Hopefully everyone stays awake.
So you've had a very interesting career path, and you are certainly no stranger to automotive after spending almost 22 years at Ford. How did you land at Stellantis in July, and how's it going so far?
How'd I land? It's going. Have you all seen the news? It's going dynamically well. So how'd I end up at Stellantis? So I'll first start the 22 years at Ford Motor Company. First 10 years was actually in engineering on the product development side. And then I made a career switch and I moved over into marketing and had an incredible opportunity to touch and feel and communicate about almost every product in our portfolio. And I had a crossroad in my career where I thought, do I stay at Ford forever? Do I become a lifer? Or do I leap and try something else? And from my perspective, I've always said I would never do something I didn't believe in. And so there was an opportunity that came with Cisco. And they're the largest food distributor in the world. In my, I guess, slow time or pastime or happy time or whatever, I like to cook and I'm a foodie and I was very interested about that industry. And this opportunity came for me to help grow and design a marketing organization. And I thought, if I don't do this now, I'll never do it. And I left Ford, which almost made me sick to my stomach because nothing was going bad. I had an incredible team, incredible career, but I knew that if I didn't do it, I would think about it later. And I left Ford and I relocated my family down to Houston. And after about 2 years, I started getting like this itch. And Cisco was fantastic. I learned a ton. B2B is definitely different than B2C. And I had a lot of wins and, rewarding experiences, but my passion, my heart was in automotive. And so around this time last year, actually, I told my husband, I'm like, I think I want to go back to automotive. And he's like, are you crazy? And I'm like, yeah, a little bit, on Wednesdays and Fridays I am. And so it was on my mind. I started to think about, well, what do I want to do next? And I'm not necessarily rushing to leave, but, if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And so in the spring, I got a, outreach from an executive recruiter and said, hey, will you sign this NDA? And I'm like, yeah. And then when I opened what the opportunity was, it was Stellantis. And I'm like, no way. And I got excited immediately. And the interview process happened, and here I am, grateful and humbled to be here, but also just super excited to be back in automotive, back in my hometown, working on iconic brands. You just can't make that up. So just here I am.
Detroit is happy to have you back, too. I don't know about those Texas folks. I'm glad
Texas is cool, but Detroit is better, so it'll
Detroit
always
is
be
better.
home.
It's always better. Sorry, Texas. Michigan wins. So what do you consider to be Stellantis' strengths and challenges, and what is your focus at the moment?
Yeah, so just to take a step back, when I arrived, my position didn't necessarily exist in the way that it's structured now. So there was a bespoke marketing organization that really was managing the marketing, advertising, retail, experiential, licensing and merchandising. And then there was another organization called Media and Consumer Analytics. And the two groups were really two different departments, and they worked as such. And in the creation of the CMO for North America, they combined the two groups together, and that is where my position really came to fruition. And so the strength that we have now is really being able to develop very clear, concise strategy, go to market end to end, not only with creative, but with how it's placed for media, but then also the analytics behind it, but then also teaching us what are the key things that are necessary for us to be successful. So developing and creating process of things that we've done well, but maybe not necessarily done together is what I consider a strength. Having so many iconic brands that not only have the credibility, but they look beautiful. And we have so much to offer to so many, and we are not just a peg of a hole or, one little thing. We're a complete canvas of so many products that really are for anyone in America that desires to drive and drive in something that looks good, whether you're a family, whether you're a badass driving feverishly
Dodge.
down the lodge, or
I said
Dodge.
Dodge.
And, or if you want to, step into luxury, off-road, I mean, there's so much there to offer. The strengths are just one thing after another. Our opportunities are making sure that we're here for another 100 plus years, meaning what decisions are we making today to make sure that we have longevity and not making short-term decisions for what we believe is going to give us the quickest win. And so that's where I come in to provide some balance. Yeah, there's things that we have to do now. We have challenges that we need to solve for, but making sure that we have a long-term, I would say, path for a runway for where we need to go. And that's not just with BEV, that's with essentially how we develop any type of action that we're putting in place, whether it's as small as what we consider licensing and merchandising. That's not really a small thing, but how do you make everything on the same playing field and you treat it with excellence and always ensuring that you understand what your North Star is. And so that's what I'm working on. I've been there 4 months, almost 5 now, and I'm just excited about all that we have, in our repertoire to accomplish, but then also, what the future holds for us, because I know we'll be here.
So what is your day-to-day involvement with the individual brands? Do they report up to you, or what's the reporting structure?
Yeah, so from an advertising standpoint, I have a lead that manages all of advertising, but also have a lead for media, a lead for consumer analytics. But then you have brand CEOs like Chris Fuel, who's over Ram and Chrysler, Matt McAleer, who's over Dodge. So each of the brands have a CEO or person that's responsible for P&L. And my responsibility is to be the best partner and collaborator that I can. So it's not a thing of reporting versus not. They are responsible for helping me understand what the brand needs to achieve, what are the key things that I need to prioritize, from features and options to whom our target customer is. And then my job is to not only bring it to life, but then from a business standpoint, tie those things into actual results to help them deliver what they need to. So we're partners in crime. If there's something that, they're looking to accomplish, I'm here to help them solve for it. Or sometimes they come to me and say, hey, Raj, we need you to dig deeper on this particular marketing channel, and here's why. And my job is to tell them, okay, here's what the business case of that looks like. Here's how we can bring it to life. My recommendation is X. If you don't decide to do that, then here's the outcome of what that means. And so I think, having that type of partnership, you can have real conversations around what to expect, but then also challenge one another when things are business as usual. That's what happens when you're at a company for years and years. It's like, well, this is how we've always done it. And then me being new, I can say, well, that might not be the best way. And here's a couple, ideas of how we could potentially go at it a little bit differently.
I forgot to get the clicker. Ryan, can you just,
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, John. John to
John.
the rescue.
You say Ryan?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm like, oh shoot, I got everything but the clicker. So let's talk about creative for a bit. And you recently brought back Jeeps. There's only one, and I think we should watch the spot and then we can chat
let's do it.
about it. Okay. Oops, darn it! I used the laser pointer. Sorry.
Question. If you can't see what's behind all this, how do you already know? It's Jeep. Probably the same way you know if that thing is chasing a Jeep Wrangler.
It's getting away.
Yeah, it is. Or if it takes you places that make you say,
Whoa!
You just know.
Jeep.
See? He gets it. And if their hair looks like this, or you've got a couple of these, okay, more than a couple. Or if someone says,
The doors come off.
of course they do. Could even be a game show question.
What is the original SUV?
Ding, ding, ding. But That's why you never have to ask what they're driving. You just know what it was, what it is, and what it always will be. Because when you're an original, there's only one.
That may win an award, I think. I mean, you got clapping. Nobody else has gotten clapping. So tell me about that spot. And I love the ducks. I mean, just the rubber duck thing.
Rubber ducks are cool. So there's only one. One of the things that when I first joined the company, we were looking for ways of ensuring that each of our brands have a point of view. And for Jeep, we were saying several different things. And there was a lot of discussion and even some research around Jeep as a brand. And it's essentially the most patriotic brand in the United States, above Coke and another OEM that has a blue oval. And we decided to use our heritage. 30 years ago, There's Only One came to fruition. And we thought, what an incredible way to not only pay homage to our brand of where we've been, but also where we want to go. And so we took it as an opportunity to create just a brand manifesto, celebrating our products, but then also Jeep has like the coolest pop culture, like who knows about rubber ducks and who wants one? And you only get one if you have a Jeep. And just really, leaning into that, leaning into Marilyn Monroe. It's one of those things that I got goosebumps at the idea, but then when it finally came to life, just so proud of everything that we have to offer, but then leveraging a spot like this to really just tell a really unique brand story that we can stick to. And then, as you see our creative come out throughout the year, you'll see that There's Only One platform continue to come to life.
Very cool. So Ram, another iconic brand, recently had a cross promotion with Twister that spurred a very natural, I guess you would call it a product placement. I don't know if it's a product placement, but let's watch the spot.
When trucks are what you do, you build game-changing trucks. Trucks that help you chase one of these.
If you feel it,
Or a couple of these. We build trucks that help you maneuver around one of these.
let's ride.
Jump one of these. And back away from one of these. We're Ram. And we were built for this, and this.
You don't face your fears, you ride them.
Twisters, only in theaters.
So I watched it on the plane coming out here, and I was just, it's such a good movie, but I don't ever want to go to Oklahoma, like ever. So, well, how did that come about?
Yeah, so Twisters, the original was in '96, and the Ram was a hero in that particular movie. And instead of product placement, I like to call it product integration. I think we had such a good integration with that movie, but then even with Glen Powell. And so that's an opportunity where you can take a product, you can take a character, and utilize a movie to tell a complete story. And so we weren't able to show all of the integrations, but it went through, we had licensing and merchandising. We had some very disruptive guerrilla marketing tactics where we took over doors and park benches, and our dealers got involved, and they had it in their dealerships. But then also it was an opportunity for us to leverage a partnership that we have with Red Cross. So while Twisters is fun and, it's a great thing from a cinematic standpoint, but it's real, and disasters do happen from that. And so we leveraged our partnership with Red Cross to do blood drives. And it was something that I think when you take a step back and as a brand, you can, plop a car anywhere, you can put your branding, in different places. But when you take something and you create something that is such a broad stroke, it becomes the standard. And so now the other brands want in. So Jeep's like, where's my Twisters moment? Chrysler's like, where's my Twisters moment? And so what it's done is it's really created a platform for how we show up, and people just don't want a placement. Now it's what's the complete integration. The dealers want to be involved. And so I think all that's done is help create a different way for us to go to market, but then also have a sense of pride, around our products, but then also helping us tap into the community. And so that was something that just very proud of the team and, how we, executed that, and more to come. So, You'd be
More to
looking for the Jeep
come.
moment soon.
I like that. I like the teaser. Well, Fiat has also done some very clever executions recently comparing Fiat to Tesla, which is not something you see automotive brands doing very often, like comparing themselves. So let's go ahead and take a look. And there's one more. So cool. Really cool.
So fun.
Yeah. Have you heard from Elon?
We heard from Tesla. If you see any of the quotes, they're like, any marketer that knows anything would never do that. And I'm like, guess whose attention we got, though? That was just fun. You know, one of those things where one of our insights, though, for Fiat, so it wasn't super random. A lot of Fiat owners are luxury car owners, and they buy Fiats with cash. And so why not have Fiat be in consideration when they're making a large purchase like that? And so we just decided to do something unique and different and very disruptive and garner the attention of those that may not pay attention. And so it worked. So Tesla was talking and we were smiling. So tomato versus pomodoro.
And talk is good, right?
Talk is good.
Well, let's talk electric. You are getting ready to launch a campaign for the Dodge Daytona Charger, fully electric vehicle, and I think we're going to break a little news here for a second. This has not been shown anywhere yet, so let's go ahead and take a look.
We aren't building electric vehicles because it's trendy. We're building them to make a difference, to protect our future and our children's future. We're building electric vehicles to save our planet, to save it from all those lame, soulless, weak-looking, self-driving sleep pods everyone else keeps polluting our streets with. Gah! That's why we're doing it.
Why not?
Well, you start the spot. I probably should have set it up better. You know, you start and you're like, what is this for? You know, and then switches to Dodge. And of course, it's very Dodge, right?
Yeah, I think with battery electric vehicles, what I've noticed in industry is many of the campaigns look very, very similar. And when we think about the opportunity we have with Dodge, we are not losing the grit and soul of what that brand, you know, brings to market. The performance is better than, you know, the ICE vehicle. And why not have some fun with it? It's a Dodge that just happens to be electric. And that campaign is very spot on to that particular core group. We ruffled a lot of feathers internally trying to, you know, get some things done. But at the end of the day, that's true to Dodge. And I think it's spot on. And I think the interesting thing about Stellantis is all of our brands have a very unique personality. And it's very important to hold true to those things no matter what the future holds. And so this was just our chance of saying, yeah, this is electric, but we're not going anywhere.
And it's still going to be a Dodge.
And it's still going to be a Dodge. It's going to drive like a Dodge. It's going to feel like a Dodge. It's a Dodge.
Very cool. Well, all of this creative is very cool, and you guys have a very unique system for getting the best work out of your agencies, the jump ball approach. So what is that, and why do you think it's so effective?
So I'm new to jump ball. Coming from, companies where you have an agency of record or two, you may have a few agencies that do different things. Olivier is our global CMO, and he is an amazing, just creative talent. And even during my interview process, we talked about jump ball. And the thing is that what it does is it makes you bring your best self every single time. And when we do things like Super Bowl or, other large campaigns, it gives many agencies an opportunity to give the best idea. And with that being said, you can't just come with status quo or something that you brushed off from 5 years ago. You have to have something new, fresh, and exciting. And it's done in a respectful way, but it's an opportunity to give us so much runway, to have not only a great idea for now, but sometimes it's something where we say, hey, that might not be right for this thing, but we can use it for this other thing. And so it also has our internal team step up their game, because you can't be asleep at the wheel. You have to make sure that you're on top of making sure you have the best story, the best angle, the best creative. And it's something that I say causes a little bit of churn in certain regards, but it gives us a great amount of respect once we see how things come together. And so I've learned about jump ball. I love it. It's a lot of work, as a leader in the company where, there's been times where we've talked to 27 agencies for one creative idea. And you do have to spend a lot of time, but what it does is it helps you elevate every step of the way. And I think that's how we continue to be on the front end or cutting edge of, ideas that, go into the marketplace. And so that's jump ball.
Well, and you end up with the creative like we've been watching. So obviously it's working.
Yeah.
So this is going to be my last question. So I'm hoping the audience is thinking about what they might want to ask you, because we'll have a couple minutes after. My final question, which I've been asking a lot of folks, is how do you feel about Super Bowl advertising? I know it's too early to talk specifics, but you guys have had an amazing history of amazing Super Bowl ads. So how do you feel about Super Bowl? And are we going to see one this year?
It's a very, very strong possibility. Let's just say there's been jump ball, and I've been living jump ball for the last 2 months. So more to come there. I'm very excited about, what we, potentially have in place. I'm still working on, finalizing creative, but just know that what you see will be very, very fun, interesting, and exciting if it comes. So more to come there.
All right. Anybody
Question.
have, I see a-
Got right here in the front.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Patricia. We are a proud partner to Stellantis.
Hi, Patricia.
Great hearing what you had to say today. I was out on the showroom floor earlier, and Chris Fuel, she mentioned Fuel. Thank you. She mentioned how Dodge and Chrysler are such different brands, and the marketing that goes into them, has to be very strategic based on the different perceptions of those brands. I'd love to hear your perspective on how you and your team go about doing that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, so each of the brand leads, they help us with understanding not only who the target customer is, but what you're trying to achieve. And so for Chris with Chrysler, that tone is more, we call harmony in motion. So Chrysler is a vehicle that is not only a staple, it delivers upon quite a bit for families. There's lots of features and options, and there's also a future state that's coming for the brand that will help elevate it to another level. We don't try to make Chrysler anything else but Chrysler. We don't try to force it into other things that it's not, and we really try to hold true to the brand. So if something feels on brand, we all know it, and if it's off brand, we just say, hey, this is off brand. Dodge is a whole different animal. We know who Dodge is. Dodge has that grit. Dodge is not necessarily the vehicle that you want to try to make it into a family vehicle. That's not what it is. And so, you know, when you're very clear on your brand promise and the things that we're trying to achieve, then it's very clear to differentiate. From a marketing standpoint, the same rigor goes into play. So one brand doesn't necessarily achieve more visibility from an internal standpoint as far as how much time and effort we put into something. But what it does do for us is if we know that there's something that, so for example, I brought up jump ball. There have been times where we've gotten ideas for Jeep that feel Dodge. And I'll say it, that feels really Dodge. And then I say, let me set that aside and let me show it to the Jeep team, to the Dodge team and see how they feel about it. And those are the conversations that we have. And so if there's something that's not feeling on brand, but it might be better suited for another, then we usually have that respect, we hold that regard, and then we make sure that, you know, we honor what the brands are calling for. And it's not something that we like just try to force. Every brand has such a clear, unique identity that it's not very hard to keep them, you know, in the place where they belong, not necessarily, you know, creating silos as far as how we go to market, but the customers and the content and the issues that we're solving for many times are very different. And so we treat it as such.
So one last question, directly in the back here.
Hi, Juliette Ferrara from SiriusXM Media, proud Jeep owner, so thank you.
Yay.
I agree. I think the jump ball process drives incredible creative excellence for all of you. I'm very curious from your perspective, what sort of leads the strategy when you start to think about how that creative is going to come to life in media? Does creative come first and then sort of drive where you want to execute, or does media come into play and the channels and spaces you want to be? And is that part of how you're instructing your creative concepting?
So, and that's a great question, and this is something that we had to change since I've been in play. So essentially, before any creative is established, you have your brief. And what I've done is our briefing doesn't just happen with the creative team and brand team. We also have media involved, CRM involved, our digital team, everyone that will touch the particular campaign or has something to do with it is all in one conversation. As we develop whatever the idea is, then we determine, okay, what are the key channels, what are the things we need to solve for, and what are the best avenues for us to leverage our resources to help us deliver upon those goals. And so we have modeling that helps us establish what's the best amount of media, what are the channels that we should be, you know, solving for. But at the end of the day, all of the people that are important, you know, as far as decision making are in the same room. So right now I have every 2 weeks, we have a brand review for all of the brands, and every single person that touches it, whether all the things I named earlier, including experiential, product placement, everyone together understands what's happening pre, during, post, what decisions we need to make, what things we need to prioritize, what things are potentially not working, how do we, you know, make quick decisions, but then also how are we making sure that we're delivering upon, you know, goals that we have from a month-to-month basis, or how we're going to leverage the rest of the year. And so all those conversations have to happen together for us to, you know, go to market in a cohesive and united front. And so it's different. It was a little bit difficult at first because when you work in a silo, it's like, okay, well, here's my thing. Here's the thing that I have to solve for. And now that we're all in the same room, it's also helped with culture, though, because when one thing is happening on one channel, then others are then willing to say, hey, did you think about X, Y, or Z? And it also helps with that cross-collaboration between the teams.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Raj. That was great. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.